I did a podcast for a while, and it was actually, again, it's a combination of ADD and luck.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I am your host, Big Rob. Welcome to season number 3. Thank you so much for making this podcast a possibility and for me to go into season 3 with you. It means so much to the folks that have bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com, the folks who have written ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all the other places where you get your podcasts. If you're able to give me a rating, thank you so much. It really does do a lot to help more people find this podcast. And I still believe in it, and I believe in you. And I'm so happy to continue doing this with you and to be here for season 3. I'm really excited about my first guest for the season. Is a guy that I met through working in retail. He is a whiz. He is a sharp wit and just a quick creative mind. And I've enjoyed so much getting to know him. And I want you to get to know him as well. Please welcome Matt Cassem.
All right. Hello.
Hey, Matt. How are you doing?
Doing well, Rob. How are you?
Sorry, you seemed you were like in stunned silence. You're like, is he talking about me?
I was like, oh my gosh. That's a hefty thing to live up to, and I love it.
It's great. It's great. And I mean every word of it. I've enjoyed getting to know you and in working and then just outside of work as well. It's been just a real pleasure to get to know you. And so I couldn't think of someone better to have on the first episode for my season 3. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And you're calling in via Zoom from, you're in Tampa?
Yes. Wesley Chapel, but Tampa.
Okay. I mean, I don't
Tampa adjacent.
Okay. I mean, I don't need the home address or anything like that, but just.
All right. I had the lat longitude ready to go. So I'm going to strap
it. So, Matt, are you a native of that area down in the Tampa area? Are you a Florida boy? You're a Florida man?
No, I'm not.
You're not Florida man.
Not Florida man. Not Florida man. No, I grew up in Wisconsin. Was born and raised and left when I was about 21. Took off to the wild big city, New York City.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I lived there for a couple of years, left just after September 11th, not because of, just sort of coincidental too. Mm-hmm. And was actually moved by a company that I worked for to Denver. And then lived there for about 5 years and then got moved by that same company down to Tampa. And, here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah. So in growing up in Wisconsin, that's a different climate than what you were experiencing now in Florida, for sure. I mean, do you miss it any? Do you miss that those bone chilling winters and mild summers?
Not at all. I miss Wisconsin in that my family's all there, so I miss them, of course. But like Wisconsin itself, it's beautiful. I don't want to live there because the snow. Yeah, really is the only reason. Like, no, no thanks. I'm good with snow as long as it doesn't land on cars or on roads. Okay, right. Yeah. So if it wants to snow anywhere else, totally fine.
Just as long as it's on a pasture somewhere and it's bucolic, it's great. It's just not going to stop you from having to get somewhere. Exactly. So what were you into? And you were in Wisconsin for 21 years. What were you into there? What was your growing up and your family and school life like?
Yeah, so much like today, it's very ADD riddled. I'm sort of all over the place. I have done so many different things, right? Like I've done fast food, I've done roofing, I've done trade show production. Wow. Radio DJ for a while. So a lot of different things while I was in Wisconsin that just I just wanted to try out, sort of everything that sort of happened by accident in a good way. Yeah. And it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Was there anything like did you go to like a college and stuff in the Wisconsin area, or did you take off or was college not part of the plan?
Yeah. It's funny. I graduated high school, went to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse for a while, about a year and a half, and just was like, no, no. This is too much. I'm done. I'm tired of this. This is boring.
Mm-hmm.
Was just really tired of school. And then, especially because it dawned on me too, like at that time, I really, really wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh man, not only do I have to go through this, but 3 more years in addition to this. And no, I'm good. Let me see what else I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So took off. And I think that's about the time I started doing radio. Radio. And then the trade show production. The money was phenomenal.
Wow.
So I didn't need to.
I assume that's for the trade show production, not for radio, because I've never had phenomenal radio money ever. So.
Correct. Because mostly too, I was part-time with the radio. So, that was definitely not making a whole lot of money. But, I think for then it was interesting because I was probably 18 or 19 at the time, roughly. And I thought it was king stuff. I mean, as trade show producer, you get to travel the country, you get to go to malls and venues around the country and set up these like wedding shows or home improvement shows and stuff like that. And as 18 years old, when you get to go to someone's booth and tell them that if they don't pay you, they got to get out, it was kind of a little trippy thing, right? So a little power trip. But no, it was fun. I learned a lot and really just enjoyed myself. And radio was a complete accident, but it was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. What format were you doing radio in?
It was a top 40 radio station, 100,000 watt station out of my hometown. Yeah. Unrated. Yeah. So it didn't really matter what we did. And we did all kinds of shenanigans. Yeah. I got the job because I dialed in and there was a woman by the name of Kara West who it coincidentally happens to be married to, oh good Lord. What is his name? Get Her Done.
Oh, wow. Larry the Cable Guy.
Yes, Larry the Cable. I'm like, why can I not think of his name? Yeah. Larry the Cable Guy. They met when she was a DJ out in Vegas. So anyway, so she was my mentor, but it started out because I called in, was caller number 10 to burn a pair of Hanson concert tickets. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, look, do you need an intern? And she's like, yeah, actually the guy that I needed didn't show up tonight. So sure, come on in. And
that's awesome.
And it kind of morphed in from there. So it was totally accidental.
That's awesome though. That's a great story. And it's, it just proves again that you can be, that it's about who you know and not what you know in radio a lot of the times. I mean, I've known very few people that have gotten radio jobs because of any degree or any, book learning or anything like that. It's all on a relationship type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
That's awesome. So you were doing the trade shows. Is that what took you to New York City?
No, New York City, I just decided to up and go. I didn't have a job. I had a chance of a lifetime because a really good friend of mine, had a bedroom in his apartment that was open for rent for $250 a month on Manhattan Island proper.
Wow.
And that was a deal where you're like, you're not going to come across that ever again in your life. So go.
Wow.
And then just landed a job when I got there as a desktop application trainer. So I was training Excel and PowerPoint and all that jazz. And just, got to experience life in the big city as a pampered young kid from Wisconsin.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. What was one of your what was one of your favorite, like only in New York type moments that you may have had?
So not that job, but the job I got afterwards. I worked for DoubleClick for a while before they were acquired by Google. And we were out. It was my boss and a couple of other coworkers. We were out. We were piled in the back of a taxi cab. This is before Uber and before, any of the apps. We're piled in the back of a taxi cab. And of course, we're going through the city and we stop at a stoplight and there's another car next to us. And for some reason, the people in that car decided to start some stuff. And so they started yelling and, gesturing at us. And I'm just sitting on the far side, like up against the door, like, oh boy, here we go. And my whole entourage decides they're going to fight back. So they start just going off, flipping gestures and calling out stuff and cursing them out and everything else. And those people get out of the car and start coming over to, to our cab. And luckily the light turned green and we were like to the cabbie, go, 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 go. So
Wow.
we took off. Luckily did not, no casualties that evening, let's just say.
Wow, that is crazy.
But definitely an only in New York story.
Well, that's awesome. So you moved around some more. You were in Denver, and then you're in Florida. What's one of the things that you do, like for fun in Florida? I mean, you're not too far from the mouse, but it is still a bit of a drive. I assume there's other things that occupy your time as well, right?
Sure. Yeah, definitely Disney. I mean, we at one point had tickets to every theme park, so we were constantly going between Disney and Universal and even Busch Gardens and some of those. That was a lot of fun. Then the pandemic hit and we kind of let everything collapse and just sort of set that aside for which our wallets were quite happy with, by the way.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine.
Sad time. I don't want to make light of it, but like our wallets were like, okay, thank you for a little breathing room. But we were able to do a lot of that prior to that and getting back into it now. Otherwise, scuba diving, love to go scuba diving.
Oh, wow.
Really, really enjoy, we just started to kind of dabble a little bit in like kayaking. So we'll see where that takes us. We're thinking about getting some inflatable ones to go out to the beach.
Okay.
Not a beach person. I hate the sand. I like the water, but I hate the sand. So I tend to kind of stay away from that. But, we'll get to Hillsborough River. It's chock full of alligators, but it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. I guess with scuba diving, you're not really walking in off the beach anyway. So you're in a boat, you're going out anyway. So
sometimes
you can avoid the sand for a good bit that way.
Yeah.
Do you ever do any, like, have you tried the, what is it called? The paddle board thing where you're like standing up on a surfboard with a paddle thing?
No, it's something else I really want to do though. I actually really want to try it. Yeah. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think it's very zen. I think that would be,
I don't have the balance. My body is not made for that type of center of gravity and being on water type of thing. It's like,
I don't know if I am either. We're going to find out. I'll either do really well or I'll be really wet. One of the two.
Well, at least you like the water, so it wouldn't matter if you got that way.
Yeah,
so.
it's totally fine.
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier some of the stuff you've done. I know you've done podcasting as well too. What are you still? Do you still have your podcast going?
I don't. I did a podcast for a while, and it was actually, again, like everything, it's a combination of ADD and luck. I decided to just test out podcasting. Like I downloaded the app Anchor, which is for those, pretty good one if you're wanting to dabble. That's a good way to get into it. And just said, let's try this out, and kind of randomly picked a theme out of a hat. And my podcast became 3 facts. So the whole thing was I would find 3 facts about something that was the kind of theme of that episode, and then just talk about it for a little bit. And each episode was probably only about, I want to say 10 minutes long, maybe, not super long, which was kind of my point. Cause I'm like, I'm just testing this out. I don't want to commit to a whole lot right now.
Right.
But we did pretty well, and just ran through it for a while. And I got some really, really cool, touching emails from people when I kind of wrapped it up. Like one guy from Australia was like, "Oh, we're going to miss you because my son loves listening to your podcast when we go to bed. It's his best way to kind of like wind down and listen and learn at the same time." And I was like, "Oh," so that was kind of cool. But it was time. It was one of those like, okay, this is good, but it was just a test. So let's drop it from here.
Right.
But I've got one that I'm working on, a project. It's just in its infancy, with a friend of mine named Christina. And that one is going to be called Writing Out Loud. And it's just all about the writing process and really the whole writing and editing and self-editing process, and kind of what goes into that creative side of things from a writer's standpoint.
Wow. That's awesome. Like for writing for a novel, writing for a script, writing for anything, any type of creative writing.
Yep. We're going to focus a lot on some of the different like aspects of writing, like representation, in movies and film in terms of story. And it's really about the story more so, I think, than the writing even. And us being able to say, like, how do we bring a story to life? What are some of those elements, and how do we see that transmit to, TV to movie to some of these other formats as well. And then come back to the actual book itself and how is that portrayed and built, from the ground up to be able to become these things and to kind of grow a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that takes shape. Like I said, totally in its infancy. We're just kind of, kicking tires and starting things up, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, are you a writer yourself? Are you the just the idea, instigator, and then you need someone else to put the flesh it out with words?
I think the latter is probably the closest to the truth, to be honest. But I always tell people I'm a writer, but I haven't written anything in years. But it's a passion for me because my whole thing, I think, is just creating.
Yeah.
Right. Being able to create something out of nothing. And if that happens to be written, if it happens to be art, if it happens to be a song, whatever form it takes, right, is fine. I don't care, honestly. I just want that thing to have life and to become something, right? Yeah. So it's an interesting kind of way for me to say, yeah, I'm a writer. And people are like, oh, can you show me? No, I cannot.
Well, you mentioned a couple of times earlier about just kind of having the ADD mind. Is that something? Were you diagnosed officially with ADD like at an early age or anything, or were you that we just where your parents didn't quite know what to but they knew what would occupy your time type of thing?
Yeah, no, not officially diagnosed. I think for me, every time I've looked at the tests and the symptoms, everything's like check. Oh, yep, there's that too. And I think in looking back on it, it makes a lot of sense. Like in hindsight, it's 2020, right? And it was interesting. I was a good kid in school. Like I, wasn't one to break the rules. Parents would say that and this is not a humble brag, by the way. There's a point to this, but my parents would say this is like the most boring thing to go to your parent-teacher conferences because they're going to be like, "Oh, he's a great kid." But there was one constant that always fed into that. He's a great kid, but if he would only apply himself. And my grades were fine. My grades were decent, probably like B+ and higher, right? So nothing to shake a stick at. But for me, I think that was their point. They're like, no, like he could do really, really well if he would just apply himself. And I think there was just a lot of that, like, this subject here that we're focusing on now is fun for now, but I'm bored now. I want to do this. And it's, so it has been kind of a thing for a very long time where it's like, the list of projects I've started and not finished is longer than I am tall.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think it's something that I'm working on. Can I say that? I don't know.
I mean,
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's something you're, like you said, you're just trying to work something to completion, before you start the next thing or whatever. I feel like I was very much the same way in school. I just got bored, and this, again, not to sound like a humble brag or anything, but like everything was simple. I could do the work without a lot of effort for what they were giving me. So I took the advanced classes. I took the AP classes in those things. And even at that, I still would just get bored. I think I've said it before, but my memory is being in a biology class and sleeping. I loved sleep. I still love sleep. But sleeping on a desk in a biology class and somebody telling the teacher, hey, Dr. Furr, Rob's asleep. And I remember him saying, let him sleep. He has a higher average than any of you that are awake right now.
That's awesome.
Which, I mean, as the fat kid, and I already felt kind of ostracized, you know what I mean? And trying to find my group and my clan, it was like, maybe not the best. I appreciate it. Maybe not the best thing to say, but I appreciate the thought behind it. But yeah, it was just because I'd get bored, and and I'd do the work, turn it in, and it was just like I felt like I needed more of a challenge, to be able to keep going forward.
100%. Yes, I align with that so much.
Do you find now in what you're doing that you still see some of those things coming in where you're like, all right, how can I add a touch of creativity to my day so that I don't get bored and stop?
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I think it's part of that self-discovery. Like, what do you bring to the table when it comes to anything that you do? Right. And for me, I look at it as, I'm just going to use the word creativity, because it is about like, how do I do something, but I'm going to do it differently, just because I want to give myself a little bit of a challenge in it. Right. I want to make it more interesting.
Right.
So, if I'm going to, do this job, and this job has this set of tasks, right? Well, maybe I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to see how many of those I can complete in a certain amount of time, right? Or I'm going to create some sort of tool that shows off like what this thing does and how I did that, and blah, 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 like whatever. I mean, there's got to be some kind of weird aspect to it. And I get accused of, and rightfully so, I get accused of over-engineering things sometimes, because I'm like, yeah, but it was fun to build. Like, I'm sorry. But it happens.
But that's the thing, is like you said, it's not that you're trying to make it creative for the end user. You're making it creative for yourself. You're making it interesting for you. They'll find it interesting just by the nature of what you've done, so it's to keep your own mind occupied and on task and moving forward, as opposed to like, oh, I hope they think that it's cool that I made the, font catch on fire at this word. It's not that. That excited you at the moment. So therefore, by the nature of it, they'll be excited by it, hopefully. But
yep, exactly. If it helps somebody else, great. That is a bonus. And I love that. Right? Like, that is fantastic.
Like, you want to put the preface, understand, I didn't make this for you. Correct. This was made specifically for my entertainment and enjoyment.
My brain.
Exactly.
I'm glad you benefit, but yeah.
That's awesome. Is there something in that realm? So, you've said, you do because you were training people on how to do like spreadsheets and things like that, but you're also a writer, and you're also, I know you have a TikTok channel and things like that. Is there one of those things that you really find that butter zone for yourself, that you're like, all right, I can do this all day and not find myself wandering?
It's a good question. I think if there is a little bit of, we just joked about like it's like the helping other people aspect of that being sort of ancillary, right? Like, that's just there, and yay. But I do think that some of that is also, how can I take something and digest it to make it easier for someone else to digest, right? So I think that kind of plays a part in that. And what I mean is, like, I'll find, like, for example, I play this game called City Skylines. It is, for those of you who may not be familiar, it is SimCity on crack. Like, this is, you can get down and you can paint the lanes on the road if you want to, whatever you want them to be. And, you've got like full control. So the OCD in anybody will go like crazy. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it also could be terrifying. But that game, for me, I think I look at a lot of the videos that are out there and a lot of the explainers. I'm like, okay, those are okay. But like, there's so much complexity here. Like, how do we take something and make it maybe a little bit simpler, right? And say, I'm going to take this thing that could be a gigantic beast, and let's just make it, a couple, 2-3 digestible chunks that we know that people can get something out of, right? Not that I've done that. Don't go looking for that. But that would be an example, right?
That's an idea to put down.
Exactly. I was playing another game called Million Lords. Don't recommend it. But again, this one, there's just about no great videos or hardly any guides at all out there. So again, taking some of those things that, there's a lot of nuance to that game, that how do you take that and make it a little more simple, a little more approachable for somebody who's just getting started? And I think that's kind of a common thread that does run through some of the stuff that I do. So.
All right, Matt, this is the second segment of the show. This is where we dive a little bit deeper into you. We talk a little bit more about mental health. I am a big proponent of people seeking help when they need help. One of the things that depression will tell you is that you're alone. And I think the more that we have these conversations around mental health, the more you realize that you're actually not alone, and you're not the only one that feels these ways. Because I know I have those days where I just don't want to get out of bed, or I just want to stay in the shower in hot water all day long. and that's it. But for you, how do you keep the darkness at bay?
Oh, that's a good question too. I love that. For me, I think it's about being okay talking to yourself for one, right? I think there's a lot of people that are like, so you talk to yourself? Do you like answer back? And I'm like, yeah, I do actually. And I think that's okay, right? You have to be able to love yourself first. And part of that is understanding you. And I think some people are going to journal. Some people are going to talk to a therapist. Some people are going to read a book. Some people are going to talk to their parents, whoever's the special person in their life that they can talk to. Right. And I think if you can talk to yourself first, it's a good starting point. I don't think that's the end all be all. Right. But I think that's a good place to say, listen, I think I look at it as this: checking in with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's it going today? It's a little dicey, To your point, I just would rather lay in bed. I'm just not into it today. I'm not adulting today. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think having those conversations and going, what, it's okay. It's okay. Sometimes you just need a day to kind of reset. Right.
Yeah.
But I think you made an interesting or good point about like people sometimes don't talk to anybody, or they don't want to talk to anybody about it, right? Because maybe there's some pride there, or maybe there's some embarrassment there, or whatever the reason is. But I think there's an opportunity there for you to say to yourself, it's okay to not have it all together all the time.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because I don't think any of us really do. There's some that mask it better than others.
Right.
But I think a lot of people are in the same boat. And honestly, too, I think there's a lot of people that step back and they maybe have that conversation with themselves and they say, should I talk to somebody? I don't know. I don't think I'm to that point yet. Am I? Like, there's just a lot of confusion. And I think that's even a better time to talk to somebody because, what do you do when you get lost? Hopefully you stop and ask somebody for directions. Right. So
right.
I think it's kind of the same concept there.
Yeah. And whether that person, just to use your directions analogy, whether that person is an actual person that you're asking for directions, or even if it's an app and you're putting it into your GPS on your phone or whatever, there are apps out there that you can check in with as well, and apps that can connect you virtually to real people that you can have that conversation with. You don't actually have to feel like you go and you sit on a couch and have some sort of, moment. You can do that wherever you are. There's always access to that stuff.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much out there now. And there's, I don't know if we're allowed to say app names, but like there's just some really good ones out there, right? There's BetterHelp. There's Talkspace. There's, even some of just the meditation apps like Headspace and Calm and 10% Happier. There's so many out there that can help you kind of spend that time having that conversation with yourself, like checking in with yourself and then getting some help if you need it. Because I think it's, we all need help sometimes.
Yeah.
The degree is just what's different, right? Like some people just need more help than others. Some days I need more help than others, right? It's okay.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Being able to open up and have that conversation, I think, for me, journaling has helped as well. I use an app called Day One for that because I can keep track of all kinds of stuff in there. I actually it's funny, I have a little journal in Day One. You can keep multiple journals, right? So I've got these different ones. Like here's my normal kind of like, I'm just going to write about my feelings. And then there's a card journal. Anytime I ever get a card, I take a photo of both the inside and outside of it. And just a little note to myself, got this card from so-and-so. And this is why, maybe it's Valentine's Day or whatever. But, just to keep that digital version of that card forever because they don't last forever, they take up space. So sometimes it's also about clutter, but I don't want to feel like, I don't know. I always felt weird about that, but anyway, so, Day One, fantastic app for journaling, super robust. Definitely like using that one for that. So I think that's the other thing you'll learn about me. I have an app for everything.
Yeah. Well, I love that though, where you're talking about the cards, because how many times have you gotten a card from someone that you love or a friend or something like that, and then something happens and they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I threw their card away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to throw a card away at some point, but to have, like you said, digital version that you can save, to look back, to see their handwriting, to see whatever the message was that they wrote, or that type of thing. Especially, I find myself leaning into those things so much more now. My mother's 83, and not to be morose, or, I don't look for her to go anytime soon. She's still a freaking firecracker, but the time will come.
Sure.
That'll be the last phone call you had and you didn't know it.
Yep.
That'll be the last hug. That'll be the last, Christmas card or whatever. So,
yep.
I mean, I think it's great to be able to capture those moments that you'll want to take with you
mm-hmm.
past the current moment, but also to have those things that to feel like that you can still reconnect when you need it, maybe when you are down, or, if somebody wrote an encouraging letter in a card or something like that, or a letter, and, for you to be able to have that and see it in their handwriting. I think there's something magical and special in handwritten stuff like that, as opposed to, I mean, we all get emails. We all have no problem hitting that delete button on emails, for sure.
Yep.
Because there's no physical, there's no human connection to that. I mean, there is, and that's unfortunately, that's why people are so mean on social media and stuff, because they feel like there's no physical human connection to that. Oh, it's just a keyboard and a computer and a screen.
Just words. Just words. Yeah.
Whereas if you had to actually say that to someone's face, or you had to take the time to write it down and put it on paper and mail it off to someone and wait for their, you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think conversations and kindness would be a lot different than they are now. That was
100%
the case.
Absolutely.
So in that, the conversations with yourself, I appreciate that you said it's okay to answer yourself, because I answer myself too. That used to be the joke. It's like, oh, like you said, do you answer yourself too? Yes, because sometimes you have to talk things through. You have to give, if you can't give kind of the pros and cons, people write pros and cons lists all the time
mm-hmm.
for things, buying a house, buying a car, what sandwich should I have, whatever.
Yeah.
You can do that verbally, amongst yourself as well. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yep. Yeah. I even use it sometimes just to check whether or not I was right about something. And I don't mean that in the sense of like, did I win the argument? I mean, was I right to do or say what I did? Mm-hmm. Right. Was that really the right action to take in that moment? And it's kind of a good alternative exploration tool, right? Like being able to say, listen, we just had this, altercation, if you will, not physical, but altercation, let's say at a grocery store checkout line.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is what they said, and this is what I said. And was I right? Should I have said what I said? Should I have reacted the way that I reacted? And it's really more self-reflective, more so than the other person. Like, it's not about like, oh, I can't believe they said that to me. I can't control them,
mm-hmm.
but I can control what I do, right? So if I can learn from that and what I did, and how should I do it differently next time? Maybe. And some days it's like, yeah, I was right. Some days it's just like, don't care.
Perfectly justified.
Exactly.
But I love that. I read something today, and I wish I had it in front of me. It was, I'm sure it was a meme, because that's where we get all of our inspiration and information nowadays. But it was, and I can't remember what it was or who they were bringing it to, but basically it was like a group of people going to tell somebody about somebody else. It was about gossip, basically.
Mm.
And the person basically said, before you do this, before you say anything, I just want to pass it through these 3 sieves. The first sieve is like, is this the truth? Did you go to that person and ask them if whatever you're about to tell me actually happened or is true? Well, no, we didn't do that. Okay. All right. Is what you're about to tell me, is it kind? Is there, something kind that you're about to say about this person that I absolutely need to know, because they're a person I know, they're a friend of mine. So you're going to about to tell me something that could change how I now feel for that person. Well, no, it's not really kind either. And then they said the last one is like, is it unifying? Is it something that's going to bring about us together in a better way from learning this information, as opposed to me not knowing anything about it? They're like, well, no, it's not. It's like, well, then if you're not going to tell me something that this person, you don't know if it's true, it's not kind, and it's not unifying to anything that we're, doing right now, then I don't need to hear it at all.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, it's just one of those things where you just gotta, you like you said, you can control what you can control and how you react.
Yep. And what your actions you take.
Yeah. You can't control the situation, but you can control how you respond to the situation.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I love that. I've heard a variation of that too, which is, in those moments when you're about to say something, not even specifically gossip necessarily, but even just, if you're about to tell somebody something about maybe it's your opinion about something, right? Mm-hmm. Is it true? Is it kind? And do I need to be the one to say it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I do think about that a lot, actually. I think more than I had realized, because it's funny. That's why I was like smiling and nodding when you were starting to talk about it, because I'm like, oh my God, I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. For the same things. And we all get in our cars and we're in our little space, right? And we feel like this is this space we're entitled to, and nobody should come near us, and get out of my way. And right. And that's where, unfortunately, we lose a lot of our self-restraint and our ability to kind of check ourselves. So it's interesting that these things, like you said, we just talked, this car is this space. This is this thing that's kind of between me and another person. There's this keyboard and screen that's between me and this other person, right? And it's like, I'm not saying technology is bad by any means. I think it's great, but does it dehumanize a little bit, right? And does it allow us to become a little bit more or less self-reflective and more just, I think everybody needs to hear what I have to say.
Yeah.
And they need to hear my opinion. It doesn't matter if it matters.
Yeah. But I think that's where, how you use the technology, it is what it is. Technology is technology, whether you use it for good or for evil.
Yep.
That same device that can crush someone, you can also lift someone up with it.
Yes.
You can also lift yourself up with it. You've got apps, like you said, you got an app for everything, so you can find those apps to help you take more control of yourself.
Yep.
Too,
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. We used to do one of the jobs that I had in the past. We tried for a little while. There was 3 of us that we had kind of noticed this thing about ourselves, that we were getting a little more negative, a little more snipey, a little more like, right? For whatever reason. It was kind of like this commiserating together thing. And we decided to there was a book, and I don't know who wrote it. I can't even tell you the name of it, to be honest, but excuse me. There was a book that you would get a little bracelet, one of those little like silicone bracelets. Mm-hmm. And the whole concept was, when you were about to be negative, you were supposed to snap yourself with it.
Oh, yeah.
And you were supposed to see how long it would go before you weren't snapping yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
We made it a week.
Wow.
And they broke.
Wow.
So it wasn't a great experiment. But, again, it's all these tools to help us be better people, too, to your point.
All right, Matt, this is the 3rd segment of the show. It's time now for the Fast Five. The Fast Five. It's time now for the Fast Five. Fast Five. Sorry, I know it's 3 seasons in, and I still do not have a Fast Five theme song yet, but I'll get with my music guy. We'll see if we can work something out maybe for this season.
There you go.
Season. I don't know. We'll work something out. Anyway, the Fast Five is powered by Poddex. It's an app created by my friend Travis Brown. It's great questions and conversation starters and interview questions for podcasters. They also are physical decks as well, and you can grab those decks and put a couple of cards in your pocket. So if you need to ask, questions at your next Rotary Club meeting or something like that, you've got some cards on you, or just ask, a person in line at the, the corn dog hut, hey, blah, you've got some questions. Just check it out. Pod decks are great. I'll be using the app today, but if you would like some of your physical cards, if you go to chewinthefatbr.com/poddex, use the promo code CHEW, you can get 10% off your physical decks. But I'm going to go with the app today. And Matt, no wrong answers. First thing comes to your mind. Are you ready?
This is dangerous, but let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. When you're feeling sick, what makes you feel better?
Trashy TV.
Really?
Yes. Trashy TV. And by that can be soap operas, that could be reality television, Keeping Up with Kardashians.
Okay. I love good trashy TV. My new favorite genre of like television or series or movie. I've coined this phrase. I don't know if anybody, you're welcome to use it. Just give me credit. But I call them dumpster fire documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
There was the documentary about the leg, the amputated leg that was found in a grill. There was the one about there's one about a fruitcake factory and embezzlement and stuff like that. There's just so many. There are dumpster fire documentaries, and they're just so compelling because they're so trashy and just like, how would this even happen? I just watched one the other week called The Pez Outlaw. This guy was smuggling Pez dispensers into the country. Pretty much whatever your like streaming app, you can find some sort of dumpster fire documentary. They're not going to be labeled that way, but you can kind of tell it by reading the synopsis.
I have a question. Was the leg on the grill found at the corn dog hut?
No.
Okay.
No, it was in like one of those self-storage things, but the guy quit paying the rent, and so somebody bought the self-storage thing. So then the whole thing was about the ownership of the leg, because the grill was in there, and when he opened up the grill, there was the leg that belonged to the guy that owned the actual unit. He had his leg amputated and asked to keep it.
Oh gosh.
And he had put it on the grill. Yeah. So there was this whole thing about the leg and who actually owned it. Did the guy who it physically belonged to, or the guy who bought the unit? It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is. I feel like he needed an air tag for his leg.
All right. Question number 2. If you were going on a road trip, what are the 3 must-haves you couldn't leave without? I'm not talking gasoline, like in a car, but the 3 must-haves on your road trip.
3 must-haves. Okay. Number 1's going to be my phone.
Okay.
Can't, got to document the experience.
Yeah.
Got to, can't exist in this world without some kind of documentation. Come on. So my phone's going to be 1. My number 2 is going to be my music collection.
Oh, okay.
Which, kind of part of my phone. Yeah, kind of part of my phone. But I'll take that with me as one of those. What else? Swedish fish.
Ah, there we go.
Yeah.
Swedish fish.
Yep. Gotta have Swedish fish.
They taste like red.
Delicious.
That's all right. My road snack is Yoo-hoo and pork rinds.
Okay.
Not a great combination. Why? I don't know. But like if I'm going on a road trip, especially like a long one or whatever, I'm pulling in and getting a Yoo-hoo or 2 and a big bag of pork rinds.
I love that.
All right. Question number 3. If you could have anything named after you, what would you want it to be?
I'm going to say a bridge. For 2 reasons. Because then I can say I have a bridge to sell you, even if I don't really. And 2, I can say, I've got a bridge. Now get over it.
Nice. Not the direction I thought you were going to go with that. That's awesome. Because I was like, oh, he's going to talk about, because he's like connecting to places, and he's like this unifying force of Matt across the thing. No. Not a bridge to sell you.
It's all sarcasm.
Yes, Matt, sarcasm. Awesome. All right, and question number 4. Would you rather have your jaws wired shut for a month, drinking only out of a straw, or wear an eye patch for a year?
Oh, easy peasy. I will wear an eye patch for a year.
Yeah.
I like to talk too much. So having my jaw wired shut, not so much.
Talk to people like this?
Exactly. No. Can't do it.
Well, the not being having a drink out of a straw and not being able to like eat a piece of fried chicken or something like that, that's where it would get me. So yeah, I'd go with eye patch on that as well. All right. And question number 5. If you could talk to one species of animal, what would it be?
I'm going to say squirrels. Ooh. Because I feel like they're probably the most sarcastic of the animals. And they got some tea to spill, let me tell you.
Yeah. Because they're hanging out in the tree. They're just watching, chewing a few acorns and like, yeah.
Did you see what Linda did last week? Let me tell you.
Keeping an eye on the birds, keeping an eye on the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Nosy bunch.
I guess I would be basic. I would say probably dogs because I want to know what my dog's saying, and especially I'm assuming if we can talk to them, we can understand them, they can understand us, because I definitely want to tell my animals that how much I love them, how much they mean to me. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. But
I do like your squirrel answer. Although I feel like it'd be talking to somebody who's like on 12 cups of espresso or something like
exactly. That might be half the fun.
All right, Matt, that is our Fast 5, and that is the show. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate this.
No, I appreciate you being here. If folks want to keep up with you, what's the best way to do that?
Best way on Instagram, you can find me at sarcassem, SARCASSEM. Also that on TikTok and just about every other possible thing, except for Twitter. No, we don't talk about Twitter. No.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure that I put those links in the show notes and also on the website at chewingthefatbr.com. Again, Matt, thank you so much for your friendship. Thank you so much for coming on and spending a few minutes and talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob.
Awesome. If you enjoyed this and would like to support this podcast, I'd appreciate it if you bought me a coffee at chewingthefatbr.com. But until next time, I look forward to the moment we have to sit a spell and chew the fat.